Thank you, Iska. So briefly about Dylan from Semi-Analysis. So he's been publishing all sorts of very edgy, somewhat controversial, very technical arguments about whether OpenAI is doomed, about exactly who they're poaching and whether it means that they're serious about creating their chip or not. Looking forward to hearing a few words of wisdom from the founder of Semi-Analysis.
I think you'll like the first meme then, Chris, because it's kind of Rohan asked me a few days ago to present, and I was like, I threw something together like 20 minutes ago. But this meme I saw on Twitter today, or yesterday, it was really good because it encapsulates how ridiculous programming GPUs is. Half of these I had to look up myself because I'm not actually that great at it. But the one thing I did know is it didn't call out Cutlass. But yeah, there's a ton of crazy complexity when you're trying to program a GPU really quickly. I'd say check out Cutlass, check out the YouTube video that's linked there that's on CUDA mode. Other thing I was just going to talk about was a bunch of GPU data centers because I thought that was cool. Is let's talk about them. Right, so this is in Arizona near the airport. Each of these buildings is 48 megawatts, and sort of when you build a data center, you kind of design something and then you stamp it everywhere, right? So Microsoft has over 100 of these data centers across the U.S. Each of these rectangular buildings. But when you think about, hey, well, what do you do if you're OpenAI and you've already trained GPT-4 on 20,000 plus GPUs, right? Well, the next step is 100,000 GPUs, obviously. So what exactly does that involve, right? So there's these three buildings. Each of these buildings has 32,000 GPUs in it. It's a ton of money. There's all this stuff about networking that I won't get into. But the interesting thing is, if you're OpenAI and you think that raising $7 trillion is actually a reasonable thing to do, what is the next thing you do, right? Is you build this data center that is not 100,000 GPUs, it's 175,000 plus of the next generation GPUs, right? And again, this is hundreds and hundreds of megawatts, extremely large. And if you're OpenAI and you have problems with Microsoft being slow at building things, what do? You also go to Oracle and you tell them to build you 100,000 clusters of GB200s as well. And then they have many more data centers all across the US and other places that they're trying to build. And so I just thought that was interesting. You got to think about the dollars and cents here, right? Anyone who works on CUDA, right? I said it was super complicated. I couldn't even explain that meme to you. I think there's maybe 5 people in the room that can explain every single item in that meme from the beginning in this room. I think Pradeep is probably one, but I don't know. Maybe Tree is probably another one, but I don't know who else could. But the interesting thing here is these data centers, right? That Oracle one that I showed you, it's $12 billion that OpenAI is going to pay Oracle over 4 or 5 years, right? Think about what does 1% efficiency mean then, right? If you think about, hey, NVIDIA's shipping 5 million GPUs a year, right? This year, data center GPUs, H100s, and then early Blackwell, you have, hey, Tree just increased the efficiency by 10% of every GPU in the world. That's $8 billion plus, right? Tree is a G, right? And he gave it away for free. So that's really the motivation here is all I'm trying to say is really be more efficient because that's a lot of money and a lot of power that's just being burned uselessly if you're not efficient. Also, just throwing in some other slides, Elon's crazy. He's building 50,000 GPUs in a factory. He's also extremely crazy in terms of buying an old factory in Tennessee and converting it into a data center. None of these data centers are green, even though people tell you they're green, because wind power renewable is like this, and solar is like this. It's all gas powered, right? All of them. Don't let them lie to you. They'll buy these things called PPUs. Which are basically you buy power from a renewable site, but then the power is not necessarily what's feeding your data center, and you can claim that you're green, but you're actually not, right? A lot of the power is wind, but or solar, but that does stop, and so you have to have gas as a backup. So your efficiency is also about saving the world from not burning, right? And I think it's So you have people going crazy, building 100,000 clusters everywhere. These are just XA and OpenAI. I won't talk too much about the networking stuff. I think that's like sort of like in the topology and all that. But another thing is like, hey, if you can get data centers across the world to work together, at least data centers in the same state or region. Jeff Dean claims he's figured a lot of stuff out here. Well, at MLSys, the conference, he claimed that they'd figured out a lot of stuff. And if you do, then that means that you don't need to build another 100,000 GPU cluster. You can just like connect your old ones together, right? Maybe. But the real thing that that I've been working on recently, just like for education purposes, really, is all reduced, right? So Llama 70B is like 80 layers, right? And there's multiple all reduces in each layer. So when you think about it, there's like, if you want to do 30 tokens per second, there's like 5,000 communications you have to do between the GPUs every second. And when you look to Llama 405B, it's releasing on like July 20-something. So really soon, it's 400 billion parameters, right? 405, 410. It can't fit on a single GPU. You need the whole node, right? So you need all 8 GPUs. How do you have these communications within the layers without murdering your inference rate performance, right? And if you want to have achieved 30 tokens per second, it's over 100 layers. It's like almost 10,000 communications you have to do between the GPUs. So what I've been trying to learn or do, there's libraries already, but I've been trying to figure out how to do different techniques and profile them. So I'm not going to use the gracious GPU that someone provided because I kind of need more than one today. But I also found a random place where, not random, this is a Singaporean company, where they stick the entire server in a vat of liquid that's made out of hydrocarbons, and that's how they cool it. That was pretty cool. And then like this is some early performance, right? Trying different things out, NVLS, ring, tree, right? These are all different ways to do the all reduce, right? Whether you go from one, you go in a ring around all 8 GPUs, so there's 8 or 7 communications, or 8, yeah, and then you broadcast it all. Then, or if there's a tree, so people aggregate up, or if you do all to all. So I'm working on doing the all to all now. And then the reason this is really important is because the unit of sort of compute is not an H100 node in the future, right? That's what it is going to be for Llama 405B, one server. You have to figure that out. But the next thing that's happening is the GP200 rack, and NVIDIA is going to ship. Majority of their shipments next year will be this rack format. So that means you need to now figure out how to make 72 GPUs communicate over NVLink and schedule the communications, and not just use NVIDIA's crappy nickel because it's really poor. That's really about it. I just didn't have a rhyme or reason, but that's what I'm gonna be working on. Yeah.
Any questions for Dylan?
Yeah. So where do you actually go to like learn all this stuff? Like I started reading Substack like 3 days ago, and I'm like, holy crap, this guy like knows everything.
Those satellite photos. We take satellite photos of over 4,000 data centers every month because we want to know like when they're building the production. And then we sell that data, right? Like energy traders want to know. There's like a client of ours who bought a natural gas facility in Dallas because like there's a lot of data centers being built here based on your data, right? Like there's all sorts of random stuff. So you got to do primary research. You got to do primary research because there's no like online stuff. Semiconductor industry is like horrible because no one posts anything on the internet. Which is also why if you ask LLMs about semiconductors, they get a lot of stuff wrong. Like the papers in IEEE and stuff are like way too like deep, and then like the books are all like over here. So how do you learn about semiconductors is really like, for fun, I would say just go to Asianometry's YouTube channel. But if you want to actually like work on it, there's a massive leap of like stuff you got to do, right? So like the specific data centers I'm showing you is mostly because of like, we're looking at the data centers being built. But as far as like how everything works, I think John's channel, Asianometry, is probably the best place. There's a construction physics video on YouTube that tells you how semiconductors are made. Those are more like, for level, 1 through 10 to like, whatever level.
What do you mean you take photos of?
Satellite photos, right? So Airbus, and many companies have satellites, but you can just like contract them to take photos. So in the past, like energy traders would often like look at like oil platforms to see if they were flaring off or not, to see, then they could project like earnings. And like one of the guys on my team used to be an energy guy, like trader. So they were like, oh, it's this with data centers. And it's actually like, there's a lot of useful information you can extract. But yeah, you have to pay like hundreds or thousands of dollars per photo. So it's pretty crazy.
You may see Dylan detained
I have not taken any photos of Chinese data centers yet, but
Yeah.
I plan to. I plan to.
You want to come back.
You showed a data center, I think, with like submerged mineral oil cooling in Singapore. That's pretty hard to scale. How
Yeah, I
does
don't think
that
it'll work. I don't think it'll work because like it's cool because it's like and actually in Kuwait there's a prince that's extremely rich who like somehow someone baited him into like this mineral oil is made out of oil, so you should like invest heavily in data centers. Everyone cool this way. It's not scalable as Ash was saying. There's a lot of challenges with using, dunking hardware in oil when hardware is unreliable. To take it out, you have to wait for the oil to like not get in the wrong places and fix stuff. So no, people are just gonna do like water cooling and air cooling. But I thought it was just fun to point that out that exists.
Last one.